How do we future proof our kids? Where is this all headed? Like, what does AI mean for my kid? What does economic change mean for my kid? What does climate change mean for my kid? I think our job is to really be thinking ahead. What can we equip you with so that you are ready to withstand things that aren't going the way you hoped they would go?
How the heck do you teach that to your children?
This is an interesting one.
Here we are, 2026.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. I love doing this the New Year's episode with you because
Yes.
every year you kind of get us to open up our aperture and think a little widely. And so I'm curious what you have for us to think about in 2026.
Okay. So I have this idea of like, how do we future proof our kids? The term future proof actually, I didn't make it up, but I thought it was super cool. It was in an article that I was interviewed for in The Atlantic. And I was like, that's a great term. And I think a lot of what families think, are kind of wondering about these days is like, where is this all headed? Like, what does AI mean for my kid?
Yeah.
What does, economic change mean for my kid? What does climate change mean for my kid? Like some scary stuff in here too. I've been thinking a lot about what we can do in the here and now to help our kids get ready for the future ahead that does feel, in some ways, stranger.
That's it. I'm not like, "Happy New Year, everybody." I feel like, "Don't say anything, don't break anything." Like,
Yeah,
it just feels like everything's a little fragile,
it
right?
does. No one wants to parent from that position. Like, that's not a place we wanna be. Okay. So now, I always like to come up with acronyms, and I've only ever come up with one good one. Do you remember when we did the summer one, and
Yeah,
it was
sun.
sun, it was sleep, unplug in nature? Okay. I will never do a better one than that. Like, that was the best one ever.
Yeah.
Okay, but this one is ACE or EAST. You can decide. ACE or ACED, it's up to you. So the A, in terms of what are we gonna do to future-proof our kids? We're gonna help them be adaptable. Adaptability is gonna be a key thing that, like, obviously,
Mm.
all of our kids are gonna
How do
need.
you teach adaptability?
So how do you teach adaptability? I think number 1, you model it, and you also model it, right? Like, I think if we ourselves are very, very rigid, like, "It's gotta be this way, and I can't handle it," then it's not so great.
Give me an example, though. Like, I get what you're saying, but how do I show my kid that I'm adaptable or that talk through the moment
Yeah.
of being adaptable?
Okay, so say that you don't have dinner, or the ingredients you
Common
need.
problem in my
Exactly,
house.
you don't have dinner, and say that you, had something you really wanted to make, and you're frustrated, or no, here's what I always find, like, I have everything but the one thing, right? Like, I need a can of tomatoes, and, like, I don't have the can of tomatoes. So I think actually rather than just being grumpy or just, getting takeout, you could be like, "Oh, okay, this is so not the plan I had. The plan I had is not working. I gotta come up with a new plan. Alright, open the pantry. What do we got? What can we make? How can we retool this?" Right? It's what you would have done anyway,
Mhm.
but kind of, like I say, like, subtitling it, like, talking through, like, "Okay, the plan I had is not the one we're gonna do. I'm frustrated, and also time to get creative," right? And I think using that language, like, "Let's get creative. Let's try to figure out a solution." I
I love
also
when you give us language too,
Yeah.
because I implement it, I use it. You're verbed in my house. Are you Dr. Lisa? Or that's adverb, I guess, is right when you add ing? Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
ly is
No, I if you're in, you're I think it's a verb,
it's a
if
verb,
you're
right?
like, how
Yeah,
you do
yes,
this.
yeah.
So, like, let's get creative. So if a kid's like, "Oh, man, I was gonna do this thing and then it fell through." First, okay, you know what I'm gonna say? Start with empathy.
Yeah.
After that, then say, "Okay, you're a creative kid. Like, what's the solution here? What can you make happen?" I also think we have to put kids in situations where they have to adapt. I mean, if you're able to send your kid to camp, right? Those are incredible conditions because there's a lot of adaptation at camp. And I'm also thinking, I've got this friend, she's so smart about this. She and her family they take family trips. And when her kids were little, she would always say to them, "Okay, get out your suitcase. And the first thing you're going to pack your adaptability." And what sort of forecast? Like, we're going on a trip. Like, it's not going to be the comforts that you're used to. I am expecting you all to be adaptable, right? So, like, really putting that forward. Okay, the other way we cultivate adaptability, and this is gonna be the, like, low-hanging fruit of this, kids are gonna have teachers they don't like, classes they don't like, classmates they don't like. Like, there's no version of going to school where it goes the way you want it to go all the time. I think most kids will be adapting to their peers or to their teachers or to the work in front of them. I think when we underscore it, when we underline it, it's really helpful. I think when we say, "You are really good at adapting. I know this teacher is not your cup of tea, and yet you're doing good work for this person. I'm so impressed at how you have adapted to this teacher."
Hey there, we are really trying to get the Ask Lisa podcast out to as many families as possible. And one of the ways you can help us right now, if you can just hit the like button on what you're watching, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then post a comment in the comment section. Every bit of interaction actually helps us reach more families who also might need this support. Okay, now back to our episode. So praising them when they get it right and they are adapting, so they realize they're adapting.
And that they're adaptable kids and they can do it. None of us wants our kid to have a teacher that's not a great fit. I also think that's a moment to say, "Look, it's super easy to do good work for teachers you love. For you to do good work for an adult who rubs you the wrong way, like, that is a very high level of adaptation that is gonna serve you very well over time."
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
they're doing it.
Yeah, and they're working through it. So what's the C?
C, this is an interesting one. Conscientiousness.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is a big one. When we look at what predicts to future well-being, it is not necessarily academic achievement, though, there are benefits certainly to, staying in school. It is not necessarily financial achievement. We
Hmm.
know for sure if you get, a comfortable margin above the poverty level, finances do for sure improve your well-being, but once you get above that level, actually making more money does not make your life doesn't make you happier, we know that.
Mm.
Conscientiousness in kids is what predicts to well-being in
What do you
adulthood.
mean by conscientiousness?
Being honest, earnest, ethical, upright, doing the right thing even though nobody's looking. And what we know it connects to is the things that really matter in midlife. So the first is having good relationships.
Mm.
You only have good relationships if you're an honest person. If you're dishonest, if you're shady, you cycle through people, people get mad at you. Conscientiousness predicts to actually doing work you find meaningful. That's also connected to happiness in midlife, is like, I care about what I do, I think that it matters. And the third thing it connects to is doing your job well.
Mm.
So you need those 3 things together for adult well-being. So good relationships, doing something you find meaningful, and feeling that you're good at it.
How
So,
do I teach this in a kid, though?
well, you watch for conscientiousness. So I have a lot of patience for stuff like bed's not getting made. I don't make the bed. My husband makes our bed, which I appreciate, but, like, I just don't do it. I think lying is a big deal.
That really bothers me too, and if I see that, I always call it out
Yeah,
in
like,
front of the kid, in front of the family,
yeah.
to subtly be like, "This is not
This
okay."
is over the line,
100%.
right? Like,
Yeah.
have 0 margin for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think, being dishonest in any way, kids cheating, like, I mean, kids will sometimes engage in unconscientious behavior, and I don't think that's a great place to be like, "Well, kids will be kids." I don't like it now. I also do not like what I know about where this points you as an adult in terms of your future well-being. Conscientiousness can also just be like, taking one's work seriously and doing a good job. So I think there's a place, especially probably early middle school, where kids can be kind of sloppy in their work or don't care that much or kind of dash through it. I think early, like late elementary, early middle school, you want kids to know what a good job looks like,
Mm.
right? To know how to like do their work really well. I think once that's established, then you can talk about when they need to bring their A game and when they don't have to work quite so hard because maybe they have a lot of work and it's not necessary to do everything to the nth degree. I was very fortunate. I have a nice family. The gift I was given is my family taught me how to work. Like, I'm a great
Work
worker.
ethic,
I have a
yeah.
real work ethic, and, like, I do a good job. I do it all the way job, and, like,
And how do they teach that to you?
my mom was on me. Like, I remember my mom saying, like, she was like, "You have done 80% of what could be done here. When you do 100%, that's gonna be the kinda job I'm looking for and the job you'll feel good about."
So she would push back when you're like, "Okay, I'm done. Did it."
Yeah,
She's like,
she's
"No,
like, "Yeah,
actually."
no." She's like, "Actually, I asked you to do, carrots in this way," or, "Yeah, you cut the carrots, and then you just walked away and left the, you know, cutting board and the knife and the" she was, like, and she was great about it. She was like, "You need to do a 100% job." And it was like and family life has a lot of jobs for kids to
Yeah.
do. And, I mean, don't you feel like it's so easy to be like, cutting the carrots And doing that job is also washing the cutting board and
Totally.
also doing the knives and
Yeah.
also getting into the
Which I
drawing
end up
board.
getting stuck with now. I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I need to channel your inner mom.
Well, or like conscientiousness workshop, right? I mean, that's really what that is like, that's a wonderful and we get a billion of those, right? We get a
Yeah.
billion of those. Or like you walk the dog and then the dog came in covered in mud. The walking the dog job also includes making sure that's not what's going
I
on.
love this. Okay.
So both ethics and honesty and also doing jobs well.
Mhm.
We don't know what's down the road, but I do know, Rena, I just have every confidence, like, if your kids are adaptable and conscientious, they're gonna be well set up.
What happens to the people, the adults you know that are not conscientious, that don't have a moral spine? Like, what happened in their childhood, Lisa?
It's a good question, right? I mean, what you figure actually comes back to adaptation, like, they were doing something that worked. And here's the problem, and I wish this weren't true, there are plenty of, like, really shady adults who do just fine, right? Like, I wish that there were a way to be like, "See, everybody gets it in the end." Well, no, not always,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But, first of all, that's not the outcomes we want for our kids
Yeah.
anyway. And second of all, like, we do have data showing the things that matter in midlife, good relationships, doing work that's meaningful, doing it well, if you backward engineer those, what you're seeing in kids is that these are conscientious kids.
That is interesting. That is a parenting tip. Never thought of.
It's good that we're talking about it because the other thing is, like, I think sometimes we worry so much about our kids' futures and we're thinking about their colleges or whatever.
Totally.
And what I will tell you is, like, number 1 is your kid a good person? If you're worried about their future, focus on this question, and, like, I think a lot of us can be like, "Yeah, they're good people." Okay, well, actually, then you're in great shape, and your kid's in great shape. Like, the college thing's gonna be whatever the college thing's
Yeah.
gonna be, but
Yeah. Focus.
focus on your kid being a good person.
So AC, what's the E?
Okay, so the E it's actually ED now that I do think about it, emotional durability,
Emotional durability, meaning that they
that they can withstand distress.
I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked before. How the heck do you teach that to your children?
You withstand their distress while they are distressed. Okay, so here's the deal. So your kid has a terrible day. Maybe their best friend's moving away, right? Like maybe like some terrible news came in. They walk in the door, they are upset. They are having a lot of big feelings. That is a moment where you either need to be a steady presence or fake being a steady presence. Because if you're like, "What? No, we're gonna find 14 ways to fix this," you are not demonstrating emotional durability. You are reacting really strongly to the emotion, making it seem like the emotion is bad and we gotta get rid of it. Makes it really hard for the kid to feel like they can take it in stride. Whereas if you find yourself a way, and we may sometimes have to, like, really, buck up to do it, to be like, "Oh, I am so sorry. Like, that is so lousy. Like, of course you're upset." So you're doing 2 things at once here. You're saying words that are very, very attentive to what's happening in a tone that makes it clear nobody gets knocked off their axis just by this, right? Like, "I don't love this. I can withstand it," which also then suggests you can withstand it. So the first thing you do with emotional durability is you take good enough care of yourself that when your kid is rocked by something, you can be steady and model for them as bad as it feels. I do think this is something that can be withstood. So that's step number 1.
With all everything we're juggling with work and life and getting kids to practice and stuff, how do I know if my kid has that emotional durability or that there's a moment where I can 'cause I sometimes I feel like we have tunnel vision. We're just trying to get to the drop-off place, trying to get through that test and trying to get through this holiday. How do I see that so I can drill down further into? Because I feel like it's like a sign that I miss, and I'm keep on the highway, and I'm going.
Yeah. The way I would think about it is not is your kid getting upset sometimes? Like, let's just assume our kids are definitely getting upset.
Mhm.
Like, that's a done deal. To me, emotional durability comes down to, do they know how to manage the feeling effectively? Can they find their way back to feeling good in adaptive ways, back to adaptive? So, a kid who's struggling with emotional durability might come in the door and be like, "I hate this teacher, get me out of the class." That is basically like, "I'm not withstanding this, I can't
Yeah.
take it."
Yeah.
Whereas a kid who's got some emotional durability is like, "Okay, this teacher really rubs me the wrong way. I'm gonna grouse to you about it, I'm gonna complain about it, and then I'm gonna go back in and deal with it." Or, "Okay, this teacher's bugging me, but they also are very good at teaching this one thing, so I'm gonna focus on that." Or, "This teacher's bugging me, and I'm gonna actually, like, be really proud of myself for being the big person in this and doing good work for them anyway. I will use that pride as a way to feel better about this. Or like, I'm gonna make a little calendar of how many days I have this teacher, and then I'm gonna cope by crossing them off and complaining to my friends about how annoying this person is. All good coping. That's what we're looking for. What we don't wanna see is make it stop, get me out of it.
I think it's hard when you know your child is in turmoil or struggling and they can't get off.
Yeah, it is hard. I remember when my older daughter, her start of junior year in college. So she's in college where they're basically housed in kind of like old apartments that are pretty worn down.
Yeah.
And for the first 3 weeks, she did not have a working toilet in her suite. Every time she had to use the restroom, she had to take this rickety old elevator down to an old lobby and use the bathroom.
In the basement?
First floor, but like that was the toilet. Okay, so this was very unpleasant for her. Like, I get that. She did not like it, but like, you can't come home. Like, that can't be the reason why you leave college. She called us and complained about it a lot. She called the housing authority and she stayed on them. Problem solving? That's a form of coping.
It sounds to me it's like, "Oh my gosh." Like
Like, I didn't like it. I didn't like
Yeah.
it one bit. But okay, but Rena, here's the thing that's really important. If we think about emotional durability as a good, right, and we think about something that future proofs our kids, makes them capable of dealing with, like, I mean, a broken toilet's the least of the curveballs any of our kids are ever gonna
Good
deal with.
point.
The broken toilet can actually become our friend because then we're like, "I'm getting to watch you figure out how to deal with this, and I'm getting to watch if you can figure out how to deal with this,
Mm.
and I'm getting to watch you problem solve." And then we just cheer for the coping. "You were doing the best job. This is really not that fun. I see you doing it. Good job." So they are withstanding distress,
Mhm.
they are not letting it knock them off course. Anytime we celebrate those things, I think we're doing our kids a solid.
I
Yeah.
love that. So as we think of the new year, Lisa, I love this ACED, ACED.
Yes. Adaptability, conscientiousness, emotional durability. I think that's what we can focus on the here and now to see where it gets us going forward.
And as we look into the new year, why is this so important?
Our job as parents, I think in some ways the hardest job as parents is not to get our kids through today. I think our job is to really be thinking ahead. Like, what can we equip you with so that, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you are ready to withstand and maybe even make, good out of things that aren't going the way you hoped they would go or you'd want them to go. If we focus on that, it lets us get a little distance on, like, the annoyances of the day to day and rather not instead of being and I can be this way too, where you're just like, "Oh, man, like, can we just make this annoyance go away?" Instead of being like, "How do I make this thing go away?" As often as we can be like, "How do we treat this as an opportunity to check that you are adaptable, to make sure that you are upright and ethical, and, see that you can just withstand it and find ways to withstand it so that you can actually plow ahead and not be knocked off course."
It's also a good reminder that kids are watching how we deal with conflict and how we resolve it.
I think we've gotta keep an eye on how we're handling the same things.
What do you have for us for parenting to go?
So I sort of gestured at this, but I wanna come back to it. All of this is hinging on our well-being. You cannot help a kid be adaptable if you are at the end of your rope.
Mm.
You cannot help a kid find their better self if you are so frustrated that you're just mad at them for their behavior. You sure as heck can't help a kid become emotionally durable if you are bowled over by what they're bringing your way. So, as we think about 2026 and people are making their New Year's resolutions, if they are, I would say assess how you are doing in terms of your own sturdiness and well-being. Go out of your way to protect it, both because you as a parent need and deserve that, and also if you're gonna cultivate future-proofed kids, you're gonna need it too.
Future-proof kids. I love it, Lisa. This is my favorite episode always of the year because you get us to rethink how we are looking. This in the summer episode.
Yeah. I like the ones where we sort of step back, think big about how do we want to approach this new time.
But you drop parenting concepts that would never have entered my mind. So thank you. Thank you for expanding my parental brain. Wishing you the best in
Yes.
2026.
Happy New Year,
Happy
Rena.
New Year, Lisa.